Time to Shine Today podcast varsity squad. This is Scott Ferguson. I got a little bit of a home cooking here. We were introduced by my good friend that lives in Chicago, Deanna Quimple, and she's like, "Oh, you got to speak to Matt LaBosco. He'll fire up. He'll level up your squad." And then come to find out, the dude lives like 3 miles from me, like here in real life. So it's fantastic. And Matt is an author. He's got a new book, which I'll have a giveaway, but you have to wait till the end for that. But he's an author, coach, movement specialist, and presenter. His formal education includes a degree in psychology from Rutgers and a degree from the American Institute of Alternative Medicine. He is also a fellow of applied function, functional medicine, practitioner in modern applied psychology, and a certified HeartMath personal resilience coach. So he's kind of a smarty pants, but he's also super down to earth, fun. If you're watching, he lights up the screen with that smile of his. And Matt, thank you so much for coming on. Please introduce yourself to Time to Shine Today podcast varsity squad. But first, what's your favorite color and why?
Oh man, it's got to be blue. And anyone who knows me could answer that question for you, because I've definitely gotten pinned as Matt. Do you have any other colored shirt besides blue? And it's like, I have shades of blue. I got shades of blue.
It brings out your handsome blue eyes, bro. There you go.
You know what? That might be the thing,
Dude, I love that you went to Rutgers, man. I'm a huge Division I wrestling fan. I grew up wrestling, and Rutgers is a place where I actually went in high school and kind of trained with those Jersey boys, and just some absolutely killers that come out of Rutgers, and they're starting to win national championships and stuff like that. It's really cool. But let's get to the origin story, man. And how you got into. What intrigues me a lot is the movement specialist, which we'll dig into a little bit here. Let's get a little bit to your origins. How you started and got into being this highly sought after coach.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of started with movement, honestly, Scott. I grew up in a medical model. My dad was a doctor. My mom was a nurse practitioner, and a lot of perks to having two parents as medical physicians, right? But I suffered from. I was a 3-sport athlete, was injured a lot. Let's just say, started with elbow problems, then knee. And then elbow is really the one that really kind of sidelined me. And I was getting a lot of surgeries, let's just put it that way. And it helped. I kind of limped my way through high school sports. I had to stop playing baseball because my elbow was basically trashed. And I had to quit my senior year of high school soccer because my ankle was really just hanging on by a thread. The basketball team I was on, we were competing for a state championship. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to stop playing soccer so I can, focus on basketball. Right. And my career ended a month short of my senior year in playing basketball, 40 points shy of scoring 1,000 points. It's like, oh God,
you loser.
Brutal. Yeah, exactly, dude. Horrible. Right. A lot of time on a couch to get through that one. Yeah, man. And just the only answer I was getting was surgery, medication, physical therapy. That I'm not going to say it did nothing, because it got me to kind of the next block.
Sure.
But what I realized was it was none of this was really solving the bigger problem here, which is, why am I breaking down at 18 years old physically? And I'm doing everything you people tell me to do to a T. Right. So I didn't want to accept, well, Matt, you just have bad genes. It's like, it's got to be more than that, man. Maybe we need to rethink the model. And so I went all in on learning everything there was about physical rehabilitation, strength coaching. I studied with Olympic strength coaches. I mean, there wasn't a seminar that I didn't go more into debt to learn from these guys. I would go anywhere. I would travel to learn. I kind of call
greatest
myself,
investment though, right?
It is, man. It has paid me back infinitely, right? ROI on that. You can't put a number on it. But I invested in all this time and energy, and got to a place, Scott, where I was in incredible shape. And I mean, and I can say this because I'm from Jersey, but I was a Jersey meathead. I mean, I was 210, 215, 8% body fat. I looked really good. I moved a lot of weight in the gym, and I'll never forget this day. And it was actually in New York City. I was working as a trainer in Upper East Side, and I was PRing. I was going for a PR on a military press. And I was feeling really good, man. I put a lot of time and work into it. And I got on this military press. I think it was about 315 on the bar. And I pressed this thing over my head. It's a lot of weight for a little guy, right?
Right.
And I remember pushing that thing over my head, Scott, racked that bad boy. And I was like, I've arrived. I've finally overcome all of these injuries, all of these problems. Oh my God, I'm so excited. Wow. Took 3 steps away from the bench. My whole right arm went, couldn't move. Like up. Literally hanging.
Yeah.
Okay. Excruciating pain. I had my orthopedic surgeon on speed dial at that point. So, called him right up. And I'm like, my elbow exploded. Like, we need to get into to do the second surgery, like now.
Right.
Make a longer story short, go into his office, assessment, x-rays, the whole kit and caboodle. Comes into the office. I'm like, all right, man, tell me what's wrong with me and tell me how we're going to fix me. Right. Matt, I don't see anything wrong with your elbow.
Wow.
What? Like, what are you talking about? Right. I don't know what it was about that moment, Scott, but It was the moment that changed my whole life, because it was the moment that I realized, wait a minute, maybe these guys don't have all the answers, and how unfair it is for me to expect them to have all the answers about something so infinitely complex like the human body. Right. And so that's when I started my deep dive, and I questioned every fundamental truth out there about health. But it started with, why are we doing this to rehabilitate people? Why are we doing leg curls to strengthen people's hamstrings? Why are we doing this movement where you put a bar on your back and go up and down? And if people said, well, to get stronger for what? And what do you mean by strength? And and I'm going to do yoga because I'm going to be flexible. Well, flexible for what? Like, I became the really annoying person in the seminar. Let's just put it that way. Because I would ask why at least 80 times. And something I say, like, be my 5-year-old, right? And ask why 400 times. and I realized, Scott, 2 things. The underlying health model isn't anchored to principles that will create vitality. And what do I mean by vitality? Vitality to me is the ability to live your best life and get every last drop of life out of life. Exuberant energy, exuberant. Like, I want that. Health model, health is defined as the absence of illness and disease. So everything we're doing in the health model is to prevent illness and disease. And it's measured that way. How do you measure if you're healthy? Well, I don't see you have any diseases.
Right.
I see your blood work doesn't have any red flags on it.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. And so really dove into that. And, I can get into what I found if you'd like, but like, that's where I started my journey. And it started with the physical body, because that's where my body was breaking down. And then I did the same, like, question everything about nutrition. Like, why are we telling people to eat salads? Why are salads healthy? Why is vegetables healthy? Why are we doing this? Tell me why. And don't give me, well, because it's healthy. Yeah. I ask people all the time, why are you eating salad? Well, I don't know. Roughage, healthy. I think it's, right. That wasn't good enough for me. And then I did the same thing with the mental health, and did a really deep dive into a personal development company that I helped build for 8 years. And I got deep into this organization. And what I found was the things and the frameworks that we were teaching people, I felt was creating dependence on us. It wasn't empowering them. Okay. And when I started to get into the psychology and the physiology and how we're wired, the neurology and neuroscience has exploded in the last 15, 20 years. Right. I realized a lot of the common, we'll call it healthy mindsets, actually pin you against yourself.
Right. Absolutely.
Which makes you work on yourself forever, which is very convenient for some of these businesses.
Sure. Yeah, I'm not going to cite an end game, because we're always progressing, evolving, or digressing and falling through. But I love that you really mentioned movement. Are you, I'm just kind of throwing a guy's name out, Ido Porto. Do you know him with the movement? I mean, I learned a lot from that to help my jujitsu game with movement, because again, I was that meathead. I'm 6'1", I'm 260. I'm pretty well put together, 34-inch waist. I'm 50 years old and I still get after it. But I was in the gym like being a meathead while I was in 6 a.m. in the mornings. I'm in the mats, and there's killers here in South Florida and in jiu-jitsu world. And, I was just getting owned by people because my movement was just not there. And, I kind of follow a little bit of the Ido, and trust me, after today, I'm going to probably be picking your brain a little bit, especially since you're so local, but it's like, I'm more functional. Like, I do everything now for functionality. When I eat, when I move, I have a serious morning program with rebounding on a trampoline to flush the lymph system out. And I have a pit bull that just loves to walk, behind Gardens Mall here, every morning. So I'm always moving before I put anything. I love that you bring it up for like asking yourself, why do you do it? That's fantastic. And speaking of that, do you coach people one-on-one or more in a group setting?
Both. I mean,
okay.
I work with people at a very high level. I don't have a ton of one-on-one clients because I put so much time into each person, but most of my stuff is online. But absolutely, I work with people one-on-one.
Okay, so let's go there. You're in a discovery period, and you're having that conversation. Is there any secret sauce, if you don't mind sharing, Matt, that helps them maybe find or recognize or identify their blind spots?
As far as movement?
Sure.
And injury?
Or just say health, man. Like, you're really wanting to get them in line with who they feel that they want to be.
Yeah. A few things that I would say is we have to train. To me, you have to change the outcome. Like, what are we trying to accomplish?
Sure.
I feel like when someone comes to me and asks me, hey, Matt, can you help me lose weight? Can you help me do this? Can you help me do that? The question I'll always encourage them to ask themselves is why.
I hate using why in coaching conversations, right? Because I never use it. I make it a point because why is so judgmental. But when you're in that discovery period, your why is everything, right?
It is, man. Yeah,
right.
and a lot of times we're focusing on getting to a destination because we perceive it's going to accomplish X, Y, and Z.
Right.
But if we actually name what X, Y, and Z is, a lot of times we'll realize that that's not the way, that's not the direction to get there. Like it's gonna look differently. And I think because of the health model and the way that we're all conditioned inside of health, more often than not, people are focused on eliminating the pain or how do I not be stressed? How do I make sure this doesn't happen? Right, and we know this is very, very basic, yes. Matt. So I think like that's usually the first little calibration I'll make with people is to just get them to get out of survival mode and to slow down. Because when usually people come to coaches, Scott, right, when there's a problem, and they're kind of in this can be a little bit in this, oh my God, I need you to help me with this. I need you to help me with that. And so I think one of the best things we can do in that moment is slow down. And I call it get to 20,000 feet. I think of a Black Hawk helicopter analogy, right? Sure. I feel like, Black Hawk helicopters are designed to kind of float above the territory, right? Sure. To assess the situation. And if there's a situation, they drop down, but they got to get out fast. Right. Because if they stay down there, man, you can get lost down there.
Yeah.
And so usually when people come to us as coaches, they're down there. And the only thing they see is what's happening in their space right there. And there's a purpose and a point to that. The stress response does that. It makes us high focused on what's happening in the moment. But it doesn't create the bigger context of, wait a minute, understand that we're in this one little spot here and there's this whole terrain that we have to work with. And yes, I understand you want to get out of this spot, but where do we ultimately want to go? Because if we can use the greater context as a guide to get out of that spot, then we don't find ourselves back in that spot over and over and over and over again, right? It's like if I said to you, hey, Scott, how do I get out of here, Scott? How do I get out of here? How do I get out of here? And I'm staring at my feet. Matt, Scott, how do I? And you're like, but Matt, where do you want to go? I don't know. I just need to get out of here. I just need to get out of here. Like, all right, I hear you, Matt, but where do you want to go? Because if you tell me you want to go over there, we'll start moving in that direction. And the byproduct of that is you're not here anymore.
Right.
Right. And so it's the classic, don't think of pink elephants. Right.
What are you going to think about?
You're going to
Right.
think about them, right?
Right.
Right. It's like, hey, here's the secret to never being stressed again, guys. Just don't think about monkeys.
And then you're
Okay,
thinking
so
about
just remember for the rest of the day today to not
ah,
think about monkeys, and you won't be stressed. You will
love
be
it.
dreaming about monkeys.
It's awesome. So that three great analogies all in there with the Black Hawk, the monkey, and it's funny, our creators are made us pretty much the only living species that can look up. You know what I'm saying? Every other
Yes.
created species, they're looking down and stuff, and that's why and I teach that with my coaching clients. I remind them of that is that they can always level up, move up, because we're built that way to be able to do it. And with that being said, when you're starting that discovery conversation a little bit, is there any good question that you wish they would ask you but never do?
It's a good question. A question that they would ask me that they don't ask me. God, I don't know if I could pin down one.
No, it's fine. Me, I'm two things. I'm like you. I'm a sports nut, and I'm a big believer in lineage. Like Bill Parcells' coaching tree below him, right? I mean, they're all studs for the most part. But I want to know their lineage and like how they got there, and also what their why, dude. Like I want to know my coaches. Well, I got 5 coaches, and I want to know, and I dig deep with their why. That's how I really push people that if you're going to work with somebody, to ask the coach their why as well. No, but it's a question that I don't ask.
Oh, you mean a question that
up.
they would ask me about me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, got you.
But they never do. So, have you seen the movie Back to the Future?
Of course, man.
Okay, it's been a few years, but can I ask your age, brother?
I'm 44.
Okay, so we're in the same realm. I'm 50, you're 44. Beautiful. So let's go back to the double deuce, the 20-year-old, like in that DeLorean with Marty McFly. Let's go back to the 22-year-old Matt. What kind of knowledge? It's not so much to change anything because your journey is pretty freaking awesome, but to maybe help him shorten the learning curve, level up, and blast through maybe just a little bit quicker.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's one thing that I would tell him, and it's to trust himself. If I was to tell him one thing, what I loved about that 20-year-old version of me is I was relentless and not willing to settle. I think I would have maybe, like you said, it might have been a little more efficient journey if I trusted myself a little bit. And to me, that all comes back to how connected we are to ourselves.
Right.
And obviously there's a lot of reasons why we can be disconnected, but I think what I've learned, especially even recently, that the importance of trusting oneself, not because trusting yourself is always going to be the quote unquote right thing to do.
Sure.
But when you have that internal compass whispering at you at times, intuition, whatever you want to call that consciousness, there's a lot of words for it. Some people call it the divine consciousness, your soul, your intuition, lots of words for it. Right.
Right.
But sometimes it whispers, sometimes it screams. Right. Sure. And I think if I was to say what's so important for that 20-year-old was to put a little bit more weight on the whispers, and definitely don't ignore the screams.
Wow. That's fantastic, because a lot of times those whispers have so much knowledge that it wants to pass on to you. But
you can't even comprehend it at the
time. In our brains, until we're 25, physiologically are still kind of mush, right? And then you get until that's it. I've never heard that. That's fantastic. Put weight on the whispers, but don't ignore the screams as well. That's beautiful, brother. So, what do you feel? Now let's go this route. How does Matt want his dash remembered? That little line in between your incarnation date and your expiration date, your life date and your death date. Hopefully, it's years down the road, bro. But how do you want your dash remembered?
Man, I'd love to feel like I played one small little role in nudging the trajectory of, the community, the consciousness of people, like, and when I say like nudging it towards being more connected to ourselves and each other. Like,
Wow.
I just feel like if there is a problem in the world right now, is that we are disconnected from ourselves. So therefore we're disconnected to each other, and therefore disconnected to the planet. Like when you look at how we treat each other and how we treat creation and the universe and the world, the only explanation for that is we're disconnected from ourselves. Right. And so you can't be connected to another human if you're not connected to yourself.
It's the cliche, and cliches are cliches because they work and they're true. But like, you gotta love yourself,
man. But they can be bastardized.
Sure, you gotta love yourself before you can really give that love to somebody else and build that solid community. I love that you're saying start inward and let it shine outward. That's fantastic. So, what do you feel, Matt, people might misunderstand the most about you?
About me?
About Matt. Yeah, about Matt.
Oh, what do they misunderstand about me? Maybe, what do they misunderstand about me? I don't know, man. I think I'm pretty raw with people and pretty authentic. Yeah. If anything, maybe people can think I'm a little, maybe too honest at times.
A little Jersey. A little abrasive.
Jersey. For sure.
I love it. It's funny Jersey. When I moved down here, brother, about 9 years ago. And, I'm from Michigan. So my whole squad, they go the boring side of the state.
Hey, the congratulations, Coast, right? By the
way. I'm not a Michigan. I'm a Sparty. So I guess.
I'm sorry. Never mind.
But no, on the East Coast, you get a lot of the I-95 corridor. You have the Jersey, Boston, Philly. And I'm a big dude, and I love to hug. I try to diffuse, is he a bully or is he a nice guy, with a hug, bro? Yeah. Like, these people from the East Coast are looking at me like, get out of here, dude. Like, and I started thinking, I did a deep dive, which you said a lot, right? I did a deep dive into why. And a lot of the people on the East Coast, they live on top of each other. All they want is their space. Once I learned that, bro, I have best friends from Jersey, Brooklyn, Boston now. They would probably die for me. It's because I'm just so full of love and I love to show love. But I appreciate you being transparent with that, because, I can be the same way, where I can be a little abrasive at times. Yeah. They mistake it, or that I might have everything all together. Like, dude, I'm so far from that. Bro.
Yeah, I try my best to make sure people are clear that I don't. And I always say to people, if you have any fantasies about me, just call my wife. She'll set you straight.
Hey, so if anything, does anything keep you up at night?
Oh, man. I mean, what can keep me up at night? I mean, I will talk about what's been keeping me up at night recently, to be completely honest with you. Sure, is when I'm putting together my courses, when I'm serving my community. I mean, this has been something that's been really, really there for me lately, is, am I really serving people in a way that's changing the trajectory at a we'll call it a causative level, or am I just treating symptoms here because it's more convenient for my business?
Bro, that is so freaking transparent.
I mean, that's where I've been lately, bro. Like, and I'm just like, and there's part of me times at Scott where I'm like, man, there's a part of me that I'm like, man, I don't even know if I want to be in this game anymore, because I'm really not sure. Right. Because the deeper you go into a space, the less you realize, like, I'm not the first one to figure this out, obviously, but the more you learn, the more you realize you have no clue what you're doing.
I love that. It's so honest, man. And that's why I don't do group coaching. That's my reason. I'm a one-on-one guy. I'm blessed to have professional athletes, actors, blah, blah, blah. But I was also started my coaching journey with pro bono to get up there. But I just feel that I can't give all of me to a group. That's just my feeling. But you have like more of an umbrella with the movement and stuff like that. And I understand how you can really, I'm just, I have my hour of power. We level up and we transform. So your honesty, it just blows me out of the water, bro. So how about, what is Matt's definition of a life well lived?
I left it all on the table, man. Like, I mean, I didn't settle. I went for it. I mean, I'll never forget listening to this Tim Ferriss podcast where this guy he was interviewing. This is, man, it's probably 10, 15 years ago. And the guy's called, I can't remember the guy's name, but he was basically somebody who interviewed all these people at the end of their life, you know, and they were all very quote unquote successful people and talked about what they were thinking about at the end of their life. And the one thing that literally stopped me as I'm sitting in LA traffic for a change on that day. And the guy was like, the thing that most people that I found they regretted the most, that was most hurtful for them, was there was a part of them that knew they didn't go for it. They didn't live the life that they were here to live.
Yeah.
They settled for the easier path, or the path that they were told they were supposed to take, or the varieties of what that can look like. And so I remember that day, and I remember saying to myself, I will not be at my end of my life. I don't give a shit if I'm living on a box under a bridge. If I know I went for it and I stayed true to that voice in my head and I went all in on that, I'm good, man. I'm good.
Yeah. Me too, brother. You're just leaving it all out there, like you said, man. That's the essence of, like, a lot of those people that you just talked about. They feel like, oh, I'll always have time to do that, and it's just, dude, I'm 50 years old. And it was a blink, dude. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, wow. And I got so much more I want to do, while people still take me seriously, because like you and I are in like kind of the silverback ages where people look at us and go, dude, they see a little gray. They see you look successful. They listen to you. But once you're like 65, you're freaking old to a lot of these people, right? So the next 15 years, dude.
That's all we got, Scott?
No, I'll keep going without a doubt. But for the next 15 years, when I feel that people are really taking you seriously, there's so much I want to do. That's what keeps me up, Man, and that's how you and I are like brothers from different mothers, man. This is awesome. So, you know what, squad, we're gonna take a break right now and thank our sponsors and affiliates, but we will be right back and take my good friend Matthew LaBosco through our Leveling Up Lightning Round. Time to Shine Today podcast, Varsity Squad. We are back, and Matt, we're going to hook up in the next couple of weeks, dude, and chat about a few of these questions face to face, and we'll talk about 15, 20 minutes, an hour. But today, you got 5 seconds with no explanations, and they can all be answered that way. You ready to level up?
Let's do it.
All right, man. Matt, what is the best leveling up advice you've ever received?
Trust yourself.
Yeah. Share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
Deep breath every morning before I do anything else.
Love it. You see me walking down the street, you're like, man, Fergie, he looks a little bit like he's in his doldrums. Outside of Health to Vitality, what book might you hand me?
Whew. Again, I'll just recency bias, but I'll say, Put Your Ass Where Your Heart Wants It to Be by Stephen Pressfield.
Yes. Love
just
it.
The title in itself is
beautiful. Your most commonly used emoji when you text?
I think it's just the sunglass one.
Cool. The cool one. Chess, checkers, or Monopoly?
Ooh, chess.
Nice. Go-to ice cream flavor?
Good old-fashioned chocolate chip, man.
Beautiful. Dude, you're the second interview today that said chocolate chip. I'm not even lying, bro. The dude that's out on the West Coast, or no, he's in Boise, Idaho. He said that. I love it. How about nicknames growing up?
Bosco. That was the one.
So there's a sandwich called the Moscow Bosco. Build that sandwich for me.
All right. Well, it's going to have all of my childhood favorites on it. And
nice.
Anybody who's been to Rutgers, they're going to know where this came from. The grease trucks. It's going to have a burger on it, some chicken fingers, some mozzarella sticks, mozzarella cheese, a little pesto. Let's do it.
You can throw a little man candy on there too, a little bacon,
Whatever, man. That's an option at my shop. That's an option.
I love it, dude. I love it. Favorite charity and organization you like to give your time or money to?
Oh, without question, it's I would say veterans.
Nice, thank you.
Especially special ops. That's
nice.
Probably where and honestly anything to do with the preservation of the planet.
Oh, I love it. Love it. Love it. Last question. You can elaborate a little bit on this one, Matt, but what's the best decade of music? 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s?
I gotta say 90s, man.
90s, all right, very
Yeah,
cool, very
man.
cool. 80s and 90s is my jam. So I graduated in 90, and then the 80s to me just had like so like you had the kind of rap with your Beastie Boys and Run DMC kind of coming, and you have like all the big hair don't care, glam rock, metal rock, Invasions from U2, Duran Duran, you know. But then you get in the 90s, and I was in Desert Storm, did 7 tours downrange. And it was like Blink 182 and Counting Crows, and it was like stuff like that. So like
Pearl
that's why I kind
Jam.
of Pearl
Yeah.
Jam, dude. All the
Yeah.
grunge
And the hip
Nirvana.
hop, I was a
Yeah,
big hip hop
exactly.
guy, but
Love
yeah,
it.
I love it. Loved
That's
it all.
cool.
But I love music, man. I can play in every single genre you just said.
Love it. Love it. So let's get your book, man. Health to Vitality. Let's tell us a little bit, you know, about it without giving too much away, because we are going to have a book giveaway at the end. And we're going to call anybody that puts Moscow Bosco in any of our social. I don't care if it's Pinterest, TikTok, LinkedIn, wherever. We'll get a signed copy, personally signed to you on Time to Shine Today's dime, and we'll mail it out to you. But let's get to the book there, Matthew, and what kind of pushed you to write it, and what can readers look to find out.
Yeah, I mean, it actually started, to be honest with you, it was the beginning of this year. I just started writing to just kind of get my head straight. I was doing a version of what I call getting to 20,000 feet, because I went through a pretty big transition. Leaving that personal development company actually was what the big transition was, and lost about 90% of my income. That was a big transition, especially as we were buying our house, by the way. For another time, Scott. But I just started writing and just trying to get connected back to me, because I felt like I lost that connection. And around April, it just dawned on me that voice said, it's time to write your book. And so it was basically, 6 or 7 months ago, I started to write this thing. And it's really a distillation of my last 20-year journey of breaking down the health model and kind of, I would say, exposing the limitations and flaws in it. Not to say it's all bad, not to say that it's not useful, because it clearly is.
Sure.
And then creating what I call the vitality paradigm. It's a completely new set of rules to engage with life, and a new way to measure vitality. And so my thing is, stop trying to be healthy, start creating vitality. And so this book kind of lays out a template, a guideline to get started with that. But in the movement space, like I said, the movement piece is where it started, the nutrition space, and then the mindset space. And so it's a compilation of all those things.
Is it kind of autobiographical, or is it kind of a hero's journey, or what kind of are we looking at here? It's
definitely, my story is kind of the thread through the book. But there's a lot of info in this book. I'm not going to lie. But it also gives you very specific, concrete things that you can use depending on, which space you're looking to level up in.
Sure.
And try these principles and execute on them, and see for yourself. So, but yes, my story is the thread, but my story is here to share these ideas and principles with people, and a ton of case studies, because I've worked with thousands of people at this point over the last 20 years. So I probably eliminated 10 case studies. So also some real good practical stuff that I think a lot of people would see themselves in.
I love it. And I can't wait to really dig into it, because there's certain parts of me that I know that I can pick up a knowledge nugget here and there that I can add to my arsenal, because my story is a little bit similar to yours as well. I was an arrogant guy printing money in the real estate market in the early 2000s, kind of literally lost everything.
Yeah.
And rebuilt it back through service and intention. So do me one last solid, Matt, and leave us with one last knowledge nugget we can take with us, internalize, and take action on.
Again, I'm going to say if you're looking to level up in anything in your life, I think the best first step is to slow down a little bit and really just take a breath, slow down, assess, and then charge forward. But I think that pause is so important, because I think when we get, and I can speak for myself, when I get excited about change, sometimes I sprint in a direction and then realize if I would have just taken 1 second, I might have changed the trajectory of the sprint sometimes a little bit, and in other times, whoa, I would have really sprinted another direction here.
Wow. In squad, talk about like some of it is highly sought after, and just really giving us a free masterclass. My good friend Matthew LaBosco here, he is a sporty guy, and his health was getting trashed, and all he was hearing is surgery, medicine, physical therapy, but none of them was really solving the root problem. So he started questioning everything. And what do you say? Kind of like his 5-year-old self, like his 5-year-old son or whatnot. It's going to question everything, because he, underlying health model is not anchored to principle. That's what we have right now with, especially when it was like carbohydrates, proteins, fats, stuff like that stuff. Everybody works differently, and how you're going to feel. And, Matt says, asking people, why do you eat the salad? Why do you eat this? Why do you eat that? And the frameworks that kind of come out of that cause dependence on it, which will not help you level up or anything. He talked about, I love that he said Black Hawk, because, I was in Somalia, which people that know my story in 93 with the whole movie that was made around it. But it's true. They get in and out. And you look at that 20,000 foot view with this helicopter analogy, and he will help you calibrate to get out of survival mode into thrival mode, if that's a word, but I'm using it today anyways.
It is now.
And he also really wants to remind us to trust yourself, to be relentless, don't settle, put weight on those whispers. And if you get stuck, like my good friend Leah Woodford would say, get your asking gear. Ask. There's people out there that can help you, level up and pull, move forward. He wants to be someone that played a small role in nudging the trajectory of the community and the consciousness of the people to really be more connected to yourself first, and to be outwardly connected. He wants you to start from the inside, worked out. He will be remembered as somebody that really slid across home plate for a sports metaphor, bumped, bruised, but he knows he left the world in a better place. He's planting trees he's probably never going to sit in the shade of. And I just believe that my guy Matt here is somebody that does it for the intention, not the attention. He's writing a book with case studies and something, not so much for himself and to look at me. He's using other people's work to level himself up and to level you up, And lastly, he says, stop trying to be healthy and seek vitality. And in his book, he'll get you there with that. And if you want to have a warm conversation with Matt, I'm sure I can help set that up. He levels up his health. He levels up his wealth. He's humble, yet he's hungry. He's earned his varsity squad letter here at Time to Shine today. Brother, thank you so much for coming out. Absolutely love your guts. I can't wait to meet in person, brother.
I am so happy we did this, and I can't wait to meet you, Scott,
awesome.
In 3 dimensions.
That's right. We'll chat soon, brother.
Thanks, Scott.